Friday to go to film school. We always look forward to his visits with us. Joe Fortunato, film study professor, joins us Fridays, and we're going to go back in time with kind of a fun hum-along movie for us this morning. And, Joe, I'll let you take it from there. Good morning, Joe Fortunato.
Good morning, Ray. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, we've got I think, a fun one. Classic, bona fide classic today. Going back to the old school musicals, 1955, Oklahoma. One of the great film musicals ever made, released in 1955. In fact, it started with a roadshow version, which is a very special event that was in larger cities, and then it kind of rolled out across the country over the course of a year. So it was a major event at the time, directed by Fred Zinnemann, and it was based on the musical, of course, by Rodgers and Hammerstein. It starred Gordon McCrae, Gloria Graham, Jean Nelson, Shirley Jones, and what was her first film, Rod Steiger, James Whitmore, Eddie Albert, a lot of recognizable names. No huge stars, but I think you'll know some people if you take a look at it this weekend. It had 4 Oscar nominations. It won 2 for sound and score, which seems appropriate for a musical. And just to kind of give you a sense of how maybe our moral outlook has changed over the day, I think we look back at old school musical like Oklahoma as very wholesome entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. Well, at the time, the film was given a B rating by the National League of Decency because it was morally objectionable in part for all people. So kind of an odd, like I said, a way of looking at things through a different lens in different times. The film's soundtrack album became one of the most successful movie albums ever released. It was more successful than the original Broadway cast album of Oklahoma from the Broadway stage play, which at the time was the biggest stage hit of all time. So it was very popular at its time. This is kind of interesting because a lot of times when we talk about musicals, at least in my experience, people go, "Oh, I don't like musicals. They just sing out of nowhere for no reason." And I wish life was like that. Frankly, it would be kind of fun. But this is one of the first Broadway musicals in which every single song has a direct relationship to the plot. There's none that are simply there just for musical interludes. So each song in this movie, and there are a lot of great songs, are directly related to the plot, which I think might help some people who have a fear or aversion to musicals. The title is Oklahoma, but it was shot in and around Sonita, Arizona, because the real Oklahoma in 1955 was so heavily farmed and developed that there were very few suitable areas they could find to resemble a highly rural, undeveloped Oklahoma at the turn of the century when the musical is set. In fact, it is set at the turn of the century when Oklahoma was becoming a state and they were just a territory at that time. In fact, Nogales, Arizona was declared an honorary part of Oklahoma for the period of the shooting by the governor. So there's some nice synergy there between states when they were producing the film. One of the stars of the film, Gloria Graham, she was a little bit trouble on set. First of all, she was kind of tone deaf, which is not good for a musical. And so a lot, she was tone deaf, and she sang without dubbing, and her songs had to be edited together from recordings almost literally note by note, almost like if you were speaking phonetically another language. So they had to craft her songs to hit the right notes. She was very difficult to work with, and a lot of people might not know Gloria Graham today, but she was Violet in It's a Wonderful Life. You might know that, which will come up a little bit later in this conversation. But anyway, so Gloria Graham was a little bit difficult. She was so difficult, in fact, this is kind of one of the last movies she worked on, and after this, she kind of did television from that point forward.
Some musicals translate very well from Broadway to the box office by the folks going. Did a lot of people pour out for Oklahoma, Joe, when this thing was released?
Yeah, definitely. It was a hit, and like I said, the Broadway musical was already a hit, so this kind of picked up where that left off. And I think over the years, it's certainly everyone has, like I said, not even everybody likes musicals, but I think for those who like classic musicals, this is probably up in most people's top 5, certainly top 10 in terms of the great musicals of all time. Talking a little bit about casting, we've already talked about some of Gloria Graham's antics during the filming. James Whitmore, who's a familiar face to a lot of people in older movies, he actually played Gloria Graham's father, despite the fact that he was only 2 years older than her. Some of the names that were considered for the main role of Curly that went to Gordon McRae was Montgomery Clift, Paul Newman, and James Dean. In fact, Fred Zinnemann wanted James Dean, but Rodgers and Hammerstein themselves vetoed him in favor of the more conventional Gordon McRae, who was a star of musicals and had a singing voice. The other person that was considered was Howard Keel, who did a number of other Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals as well. Betty Hutton turned down the role of Adu Annie, and that is the role, by the way, that Gloria Graham did. And some other names that were kind of floated around for various roles were Robert Stack, Lee Marvin, Eli Wallach, and Marlon Brando as the role of Judd. That would have been an early feather in his cap in his career. And we know that he went on to do musicals and Guys and Dolls, but I don't know that he's known as a singer either, Marlon Brando. So
I agree for sure. Oklahoma, and you mentioned, was this the first Shirley Jones you mentioned film?
Yeah, this was her film debut.
Wow, okay.
And she went on to do a number of musicals and, of course, television, The Partridge Family and whatnot. So, yeah, this was her first go in film. And she had been on Broadway before, but this was her first film.
Yeah, I'm a fan of musicals, fan of the movie for sure. Oklahoma today in film school with Joe Fortunato with us, film study professor. Well, let's go your way, Joe. What do you have happening over at your website, and are you going to be out and about more?
I am. In fact, I hinted at it just a moment ago when I mentioned Gloria Graham stars as Violet in It's a Wonderful Life, and that's because we are going to be going back to Jilly's and doing Fortunato Film School live on December 6th at 11 a.m. That's a Saturday. That's December 6th. For the holidays, we're celebrating it with one of the all-time great holiday movies, one of my personal favorites, It's a Wonderful Life. That's December 6th. You can get tickets now. They are up and live and available. And as you know, we always encourage people to get your tickets ahead of time because, first of all, we hope this will sell out. And second of all, you get to choose your seats at Jilly's. So the earlier you get the tickets, the better choice you have. And, of course, it comes with, if you come in, you can get Jilly's famous brunch, and it's a delicious brunch. You come in, see a great movie, join us for the holidays. A lot of people have seen this movie over the years, but a lot of people don't know the backstory, and that's what we'll do. We'll share a lot of history. You'll learn a lot. You'll enjoy a movie. We want to see everybody out there for the holidays, December 6th. And you can go to my website, joefortunato.net. You can go to Jilly's website and look up the tickets. You can go on Facebook and look up for the event page. But if you go to my website, joefortunato.net, there'll be a link to the tickets there.
It's one of my favorite movies. I'm looking forward to getting there with you because Joe makes it even more special with his behind-the-scenes stories of the movie. Again, it's on December 6th. It's a Wonderful Life. Join us on stage that day at Jilly's for sure. Well, my friend, thanks a lot for the visit. Look forward already to next Friday. As always, my friend, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Ray. And you've got a special one for next week at Halloween, so I'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody then.
All right. Sounds good. There you go. Joe Fortunato, film study professor. He joins us Fridays at this time right here on the morning show. 93.5, 1590 WAKR.